It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song.
So there's even more Glock drama. Glock has had a heck of a year here in 2025. Back in April, they actually said, hey, we're going to discontinue a bunch of our models, which, we talked about it here on Gun Owners Radio, but I still have been thinking more about it, and it just didn't make a big splash. I know Lenny at Glock Store talked a little bit about it, but I don't remember a whole lot of coverage. So I think that's part of the reason this was such a big blindsiding from Glock. They said they were going to discontinue a bunch of models back then, and it just didn't really make much of a splash. So they've discontinued their models. Then they, released their Glock version V, and it's tough to. It's been such a weird reaction to the V. It's been such a weird reaction to their decision making. And everyone's just kind of scratching their head. But one really interesting thing, there was a big announcement from Brandon Herrera, unconfirmed, but I trust him. He seems to always know what he's talking about. So let's play his big announcement regarding Glocks and their big changes.
Breaking news! Glock's new Model V that was designed to be able to not accept a full auto Glock switch, making the pistol impossible to convert to a machine gun, has already been made into a machine gun. I don't even think these things are in stores yet, and some Chad has already found out how to put a switch in it. Life update.
So there you go.
So I've seen a lot of photos. That picture made its rounds on Reddit that somebody put a switch on it. I still have not seen one running.
Right.
And I have no idea if that gun just has a switch jammed into it and would not actually fire or function as an automatic handgun, or if it could run, because nobody's posted any videos. So I still don't, I don't think that just because we've seen a piece of plastic on the back of the new V means that we have, solved the case and it's machine gun convertible very easily. We also don't know if there was any additional machining done,
right?
If there was any engineering
Okay,
done.
so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how it applied. I understand. Listen, it's hilarious that Glock did what they did and then someone immediately got a switch. That's hilarious. I get it. That's funny. Yes. I totally get it. I get how it's like, okay, well, they said it was impossible to make a machine gun. Now it's a machine gun. They didn't actually say that. They didn't actually say it was impossible to make a machine gun, and now it's a machine gun.
They haven't even really said that the V was intended to not accept a switch. Glock has never really said that. That's just what we've all assumed.
No, they did say that. There was a statement where they said that it was intended to make it harder, or I forget the exact language, but
right.
They didn't say it's going to be it's now going to be impossible to make it a machine gun.
Right.
Which I get it. By the way, I'm not criticizing. I get it. It's funny and it's making a bigger point. But I just wanted to reread the section of AB 1127 because I want to know, well, how does this apply to California? And I just, it didn't say, AB 1127 doesn't say that it's impossible, it has to be impossible to convert to a machine gun, because nothing's impossible. I mean, I've seen people go to Home Depot and buy a shovel and convert it to a machine gun with enough work. What the AB 1127 said is that machine gun convertible pistol means any semi-automatic pistol with a cruciform trigger bar that can be readily converted by hand or with common household tools. So even if they put this switch on, if it wasn't done with common household tools, if it wasn't easily converted with common household tools, then, it still complies with AB 1127. Now, it's really strange, and we talked about this in last week, but it's still really strange to me that they put both requirements, that it has to have a cruciform trigger and that can be readily converted by hand or with common household tools, because a gun that can be converted to fully automatic, by hand or with common household tools, but doesn't have a cruciform trigger is okay. No, they were specifically going after Glock,
Right.
And I'm surprised that with the version V, if they were looking to make this non-Glock switch friendly, that they didn't, and knowing that the cruciform trigger bar was part of this, that they didn't choose to make that a modification, that they didn't
Right,
modify away
change
from
the
that.
shape
That,
Yeah.
of the trigger
in
bar.
just my opinion, would have been a better, safer route to go.
Well, there's
As
so
far
much.
as staying with what the law was looking for.
Yeah, there's so much
Right.
speculation that can be had.
That's all that it is.
I've heard people who are really smart and in the know and close to Glock say that Glock has pretty much said, forget it, we don't care about the civilian world anymore. We just care about law enforcement. We just want law enforcement contracts and possibly military contracts. We don't care if another civilian ever buys our Glock before. Have they said that publicly? No. Do I have any proof or evidence? No. But there's so much speculation out there because there's such a lack of information and a lack of communication from Glock that, and we just don't know what they were thinking. I don't understand what Glock was thinking when they released this version V, which is an upgrade, or I don't even want to call it an upgrade. It's a modified Gen 5 rather than a modified Gen 3. So again, we talked about this. I don't think it's going to be able to get onto the roster in California.
Remember that we are not lawyers and nothing that we say is to be taken as legal advice. Our sponsor, John Dillon, is a lawyer, and he has been helping to fight those gun violence restraining orders, GVROs, and more. So if you know somebody that's had their self-defense rights taken away without due process, give John a call. His website is dillonlawgp.com, and his phone number is 760-642-7150.
I think they've completely lost the civilian market in California.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the thing that's interesting, or the thing that feels strange to us as Californians, is why would Glock appear to cave to the California political pressure of AB 1127 while simultaneously not caving?
Yeah.
Like, they're appearing to cave, which is why so many people in other states are mad at them. Like, why are you,
Right.
Caving to this pressure that California is putting on you? Why don't you just, screw California? They can get different guns, whatever. And I understand why people feel that way. But at the same time, Glock did this whole thing right at the same time that California was passing this law, which makes it feel like they were trying to appease California.
So unfortunately, many other states are, however, looking to follow California, though.
Yeah, that's true. And there are other cities and stuff who have already sued Glock over the easily convertible thing. And so I think, my guess is this has been in the works for a very long time. Glock has known for a long time that having their guns be so easy to convert is an issue for their brand. It's an issue for, kind of the public perception of Glock. And they knew there were going to be additional lawsuits and it was going to cost them a lot of money to keep fighting these. And so they started developing something that made it more difficult to convert them. But I don't know that the Glock V was really the answer. Why not just wait until SHOT Show?
I think it's becoming painfully obvious that Glock V was not the answer. I think you're right.
Right.
And so you got to wonder, are the people over the last couple of weeks who are saying Glock, bent the knee and, whatever, were they right? Well, let's read Everytown for gun safety and their super cool letter that they just put out. Everytown for Gun Safety is, of course, an anti-gun organization, a pretty extremist organization. It's really bizarre to me. I don't know how many people have come to me. They have really good, and I would say misleading propaganda that they lead with.
Yes. Very, very good at misleading people.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how many very well-meaning people have come up to me and said, hey, I talked to somebody from Everytown, and I got to tell you, they seem really reasonable. They're on our side. I think they just want to. No, they're an extremist anti-gun group. Period. There's no way around it. And here's some evidence. So here's their letter that we're going to display for you up on the screen. On behalf of Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund, we write with respect to an urgent matter of public safety. It's an urgent matter. Yeah. Now remember that. Remember that they call it urgent, or that they refer to as urgent. as Ruger is no doubt aware certain handguns, most notably pistols made by Glock and others copying the same design, have been, I wonder how Ruger felt about that, by the way, copying the same stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, have been easily modified into machine guns that fire fully automatically with the insertion of a readily available but illegal machine gun conversion device. The frequency of shootings with such pocket machine guns has skyrocketed in the past several years. Instead of shunning such a design, Ruger appears to have run toward it, designing its new RXM handgun, introduced in December of 2024, to mimic a Glock and to be customizable with the same aftermarket parts. As Ruger must have known, introducing such a design into the marketplace risks exasperating the proliferation of illegal machine guns on the streets and further endangering American lives. So when they talk about bending, and this goes on for a few pages, by the way, and they actually, if you page down to page 5 on the letter, it actually shows a picture of the cruciform bar in the trigger mechanism. All the way down to page 5, there's a picture right there. Boom, there it is, the evil cruciform bar. So what they're basically doing is they are seeing this. What appears to be happening is they've saw success with Glock. They feel like they got somewhere with Glock, and now they're going after Ruger. And I got to tell you, one thing the anti-gun folks do way better than the pro-Second Amendment folks is they pick one issue and they all coordinate and go after it until they are as successful as they possibly can be. They squeeze every ounce of success out of that issue. You know, a few years ago it was ghost guns. Now it's cruciform, convertible machine gun Glocks. They're going to stay on this. And I don't mean one group. I don't mean, one person. I don't mean one article. I don't mean one letter. All the anti-gun groups, Everytown, Moms Want Action, all these groups are going to stay on this, and they're going to pretend that it is an urgent matter of public safety until they've determined, okay, you know what? We've either completely and totally succeeded, or we've gotten as much out of this issue as we can. Now we're going to move on to the next issue. And I got to tell you, political organizations, whether they're Second Amendment or otherwise, have learned that lesson a long time ago. That hey, we can't, if you concentrate on everything, you concentrate on nothing. So we have to pick one issue and all try to, march forward on that one issue, and everybody, dig in and go after it. But I think this letter is clear that the folks who were complaining that, hey, Glock, if you do this, you're going to you're gonna provoke, more attacks on the gun community. Now, the funny thing is, like we're saying, this V is it's such a weird change that they could have done the exact same thing. They could have discontinued their models, their Gen 3, 4, and 5. They could have introduced their Model V, and they could have had the complete opposite message and said, hey, we're doing this, and, damned be the anti-gun legislators. And it would have been just a completely different thing. The messaging is what changed this. It wasn't the actual changes, because the changes on the Glock V don't appear to be significant enough to completely, make these laws that they're passing, these lawsuits, null and void. They could have just said nothing. They could have said, hey, we're not going to comment on this either way. But the choice that they made to say, hey, this is one of the considerations, I think was a mistake, getting that message out there. Or, allowing that message to take hold was a mistake. And I don't know, I question whether or not they actually care about the subject, because I just think this was, a fairly big mistake. I don't want to, too much hyperbole here. I don't know if it was a huge, huge mistake that they can't come back from, but certainly didn't help. Didn't help things.
It did not. One of the things that I find so interesting, the Everytown letter, if you guys want to take the time to read the whole thing, it talks about the fact that even though these are so dangerous, they pose such a huge public safety risk, that Ruger's RXM has never been used in a crime that they could find.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, why are we coming after Ruger's RXM if it poses such a safety risk, but also has never been used to put people in unsafe situations?
Yeah.
It's just very funny and ironic.
It's an urgent matter of public safety that's never been
That's
a
never
matter
occurred.
of public safety
Right.
and doesn't appear to be urgent in any way.
Right, exactly. They also talk about, how prevalent Glock switches and Glocks are being recovered in gang-related shootings. They bring up the city of Chicago. They said that in the city of Chicago alone, from 2021 to 2024, more than 1,300 modified Glocks were recovered by CPD. This was on average more than one modified Glock recovered every day. Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in this country. So you're telling me that Chicago is an example of how poorly these laws are working, yet Everytown is like, let's make some more laws and let's get some more, legislation on the books that's also not going to work, that's also not going to do anything to solve this problem. So it's really honestly sad, because there are so many bigger issues that we could be dealing with, that we could be working together to try to solve, but instead, we're here reading a letter to Ruger about a crime that's never happened.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, what's sad is at the very end of this letter, Ruger's continued sale and distribution of the RXM pistol exposes it to significant litigation risk. If you look at the paragraph here, this is kind of a broader statement. It doesn't really have anything to do with Glock, but it says, as you must be aware, since 2024, the cities of Chicago, Baltimore, and Seattle, and the states of Minnesota, Maryland, and New Jersey have each used Glock for selling points that, because of their design, easily converted, illegal machine guns, et cetera, basically says, hey, these cities are having these huge issues. And I just think Chicago's been dangerous for decades. Baltimore's certainly been dangerous for decades. Baltimore looks like a war-torn, third world country in certain parts of it. I mean, it's really bad. I don't think people really truly understand just how bad Baltimore is. But I can't believe Seattle is now in that list. If you go back, like when I was a kid, you watch movies like Sleepless in Seattle or Singles. The worst thing Seattle used to have was, grunge bands. And now it's in the same category as Chicago and Baltimore. Minnesota, Maryland, and New Jersey were the next things that they listed. Maryland, other than Baltimore, used to be a beautiful, peaceful state. And, New Jersey was always kind of bad, right? But now Minnesota is, Minnesota. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Just a broader statement on how bad certain areas have gotten. And what do they have in common? Well, there's probably a whole other segment we could do there.
University.
I think a big piece of this, Chicago, Baltimore, and Seattle have all sued Glock. That doesn't necessarily mean that Seattle's seeing the same amounts of Glock-related gun crime that Chicago and Baltimore are seeing. It just means that their politicians decided to, be like Chicago and Baltimore. And
well, I think that's what they have in common.
Right.
The same political. That's what I was exactly
yes.
going for. Is they have the same political bent in their leadership.
And I don't know that it actually, I don't think that Seattle has the same kind of gun crime that we see in Chicago and Baltimore. I think Seattle's a much safer city than those other two. And I think Minnesota has had a lot of anti-gun legislation come out of some, kind of tragic circumstances. We had the Minnesota politicians that were killed. Before that, we had a lot of, kind of political unrest with the, protests and everything around the George Floyd death. And so, we just have a lot of things that happen in Minnesota, not that long ago, not in the distant past, that have made it more and more anti-gun. And I think, some of the legislation we're seeing out of Minnesota is some of the most strict legislation we're seeing anywhere in the country, which is crazy to me because I've always thought of Minnesota as this kind of like, Midwest vibe, and it's no longer.
Yeah,
it's no longer
Minnesota
that.
nice, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll wrap this up by saying we really, truly just still don't know exactly what's going on, and we certainly don't know what it means for Californians yet. We don't know what the lawsuit will, or how the lawsuit will affect this, or if there is even still a meaningful lawsuit that's able to continue with Glock out of the picture. I mean, Ruger could still be, part of that lawsuit as far as I can tell. Yeah, all the answers that Glock has given have really created more questions. But it is pretty hilarious that, you could use an egg timer to time how long it took someone to figure out how to put a switch on the new V, if that's confirmed. And again, I believe Brandon Herrera, the guy's as legit and knowledgeable as they come. So if he says it's legit, then it's legit. But anyway, there you go. There's your Glock drama update. Okay, so California does what it does best, which is make anti-gun laws. There's two more that we have to tell you about, unfortunately. If it weren't so sad, it would truly be funny. SB 704 and AB 1263. What is the status of those two? Well, SB 704 already chaptered. It's already in law, basically chaptered on October 10, 2025. It's chapter 591, statutes 2025, done. Okay, so what does it do? Well, definition of firearm barrel. SB 704 actually adds a definition of firearm barrel to the penal code that includes the metal or cylindrical tube through which a projectile or shot travels, and any forging, casting, printing, extrusion, machined body or similar article that is designed or marketed to become a firearm barrel once completed. Now, why? Why did it feel it needed to add that definition? Well, because the law now prohibits the sale or transfer of a firearm barrel as defined unless the transaction is completed in person by a licensed firearms dealer. The dealer must perform an eligibility check of the purchaser or transferee, which is a background check. It also, let's see, July 1st, starting July 1st, the licensed dealer must record information about the sale or transfer. That includes the date, the buyer's ID or driver's license, their address, the make, model, caliber of the firearm the barrel is designed for, and some other information, but specifically that was spelled out. It also has to submit it electronically to the California Department of Justice, and the dealer may charge up to $5 for the eligibility check fee, with possible annual increases up to $1. I think it's interesting that they keep calling it an eligibility fee or an eligibility check. Just call it what it is. It's a criminal background check. It's a repetitive criminal background check. I mean, how many times do we got to do this? How many times do we have to go through a criminal, eligible background check? But honestly, as offensive as that is, that's probably the least offensive part of this. The fact that you can no longer buy a piece of metal on the internet and have it sent to your house, pretty ridiculous. But if I'm reading this correctly, this will end your ability to purchase a barrel on the internet and have it sent to your house. This is brought to you by Cargo, cases and rugged gear outfitters in El Cajon. Go to cargostores.com, buy something today, or visit them at 423 Broadway in El Cajon. There are two enemies of your firearms, rust and the government. The good news is Cargo has your back on both fronts. As a proud sponsor, they're helping us fight to get more pro-Second Amendment officials into office, and their rugged cases help you keep your firearms secure and protected. Built like a tank, Cargo cases are stackable, weatherproof, and ready for anything. Whether you're hitting the range or going off the grid, you need a Cargo case. Whether for your gun or other equipment, you need a Cargo case. And here's something that's just for our listeners. If you buy a Cargo case in the store at Cargo Rugged Gear Outfitters in El Cajon, just mention Gun Owners Radio, and you're going to get a free desiccant pack. And that's going to help keep your gear bone dry, battle ready, and rust free. Visit them at 423 Broadway in El Cajon. Great products, great prices, and uncommonly good service. Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters. Cargo. Check them out.
Yeah, what's interesting and what I'll be interested to see is, will online dealers now have programs where they stock their barrels through FFLs in California? There are so many barrels out there that you cannot find in store. Like if I walked into the biggest FFL in California and I said, hey, I want this particular barrel for this particular gun, there's no way they have it. There's absolutely zero chance.
It doesn't make sense for a business owner to stock all of the varieties that are out there. They're not going to.
So what I'm curious about is like now is the FFL going to make relationships with all of these companies so that the companies are shipping the barrel to the FFL just like we have other things shipped to the FFL?
Like ammo.
Right.
Yeah, the way ammo is now.
But the way the law is written, I can't order it online and then have it shipped to the FFL. The FFL has to be the one to order it. So why would the FFL order something on my behalf without me having paid for it? So it's going to be interesting to see how people kind of figure out how to get what they need for their particular firearms. But
well, and don't worry, if you violate this, it's quite simple. The first violation is punishable as a misdemeanor. The second is a misdemeanor with up to 1 year in jail and a fine of $1,000. And the third and further violations may be punished as a felony or a misdemeanor with higher penalties like $2,000 and a year in jail. So, it's just might as well be a parking ticket. It's unbelievable just for buying a barrel. The law does not apply to barrels attached to or affixed to a firearm. Sales transfers to law enforcement agencies, of course, cops are exempt. Federally licensed firearms dealers, the U.S. military, or certain collector transactions are exempt. So starting in 2026, when did we say this was starting?
2027, July 1st, 2027.
My apologies. July 1st, 2027, this is SB 704. You're no longer going to be able to order a barrel online.
So get your barrels now, folks.
Get your barrels.
Get them in. Stock them in your own house.
Okay, the other one is AB 1263. Now, this one's actually, I think this one's, not being able to buy a barrel online is kind of cut and dry. We understand it, and that's clearly a bad thing. This one's not quite as clearly, I don't know, it's worth a discussion. So AB 1263, the bill was signed into law by the governor on October 11th, 2025, goes into effect on January 1st, 2026. So less than 2 months. What does the bill do? Well, creation of a new misdemeanor offense. It becomes a misdemeanor in California for a person to knowingly or willfully cause another person to engage in the unlawful manufacture of firearms, or to knowingly, willfully aid, abet, promote, or facilitate that unlawful manufacturing. That includes 3D printers, CNC machines, etc. Expanded regulation of digital firearms manufacturing files. The law broadens the definition of digital firearm manufacturing code, which includes CAD and CAM files, CAD files, and CAM files, computer-aided manufacturing instructions, and allows the distributor of such files to be held civilly liable, including by private persons harmed, and creates a rebuttal presumption of liability for a website owner who distributes or encourages the dissemination of such files. Now, I got to tell you, that's not just a Second Amendment violation. That's a First Amendment violation, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. The new requirements for firearm industry members regarding parts, accessories, barrels, and machines before completing the sale or delivery of certain items, such as a firearm barrel unattached to a firearm, accessories, or firearm manufacturing machine, industry members must give a clear and conspicuous notice that certain conduct is generally a crime in California, including manufacturing firearms without a license. So, there's some things in here, like the first half of this is like, they're basically saying, look, it's a crime to do a crime, is essentially what they're saying.
Right.
So it's tough to go like, well, but it's not just that. Like that's just that's just the foundation of this thing. And it's clearly, like most of these gun laws and resolutions and everything else they do, it's clearly designed to make you, the gun owner, seem guilty, seem dangerous, seem bad.
Yeah.
So, but the dissemination of information being illegal,
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So, one of the pieces that I found the most egregious in this is that in the prior version, it had said firearm accessory means an attachment or device designed or adapted to be inserted into, affixed onto, or used in conjunction with a firearm. That is designed, intended, or functions to alter or enhance the firing capabilities of a firearm, the lethality of the firearm, or a shooter's ability to hold and use a firearm. That would have been bad enough, but when they amended it, they made it even worse. They said if it increases a firearm's rate of fire or increases the speed at which a person may reload a firearm or replace the magazine. So now we're including larger magazine release buttons, which many people have on their firearms. I have multiple guns that have larger than standard magazine releases. That's like that. Like if I had a 3D printer, I would be like, I could make myself a mag release easily, and that should not be illegal because it has literally nothing to do with firing the gun.
Well, and if we're betting public safety, if we're saying, hey, public safety is going to be dependent on a criminal's inability to reload their gun or pull a trigger fast, we've lost. That's not public safety. We're not going to obtain public safety because a criminal is slightly less competent when it comes to, working a firearm. And on by the way, the flip side of that is it makes it less safe if I can't change my magazine and I can't, increase the speed at which I pull the trigger. Like if you're giving me a piece of equipment, by the way, I'm the only one in the calculation that follows the law. The criminal doesn't. So you're making sure that victims have less capable equipment, and if they do have more capable equipment, then they're going to become criminal. That's not public safety. None of this makes any kind of sense.
Yes, it's crazy.
Alicia, what do you think?
I'll tell you, if you think about it, the criminals that are doing a lot of these things, most of them are completely incompetent with a firearm.
Yeah.
Completely. Are they likely to take the time to be putting an extended mag release on there? No. This is not
right.
Generally something that they would even do. Most of them don't even know how to function a firearm. They just, you're right. It's affecting those of us who know how to run our firearms. We spend time with it. We train with it. We put the time into the discipline and the safety and the proper handling. And it's not affecting those that they're looking to affect.
No, they're just harassing. Now, here's a twist. Of course, if you look at the voting, every Democrat voted for it. A couple of Republicans, most Republicans voted against it, but a couple of Republicans voted for it. And one of them is in Orange County in San Diego. She's actually been endorsed by Orange County gun owners before. She's been endorsed by CRPA before. I think she was endorsed by NRA, and she was endorsed by San Diego County gun owners at one point because her district straddles the line, the Orange County, San Diego line. She voted for this. She voted for it twice during the process. Her name's Laurie Davies. So my question to you viewing this is, should she lose her endorsement by gun groups because of this vote? So in the comments or via email, or however you want to get that message to Orange County gun owners or San Diego County gun owners, tell us what you think. Should Laurie Davies, by breaking with the pro-Second Amendment folks and voting with the anti-gun folks on such a ridiculous, horrible law, should she lose her endorsement going forward? And I got to tell you, she needs every vote she can get. She's in a district that's fairly difficult. So losing the faith of gun owners who, were told in the past to vote for her because she was going to help protect you, and here she didn't. Should she lose her vote? Should she lose your vote specifically? So let me know what you think. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think this is egregious enough that anybody who voted to put this into law is not a friend of the Second Amendment.
I'm looking down through at the voting record here. She's the only Republican that voted for it.
Yep.
The only one.
Yep.
So
looking down the list.
So I'm curious, just because I have met lots of Republican politicians who are pro Second Amendment but kind of uneducated in the gun space. They're not shooters themselves. They didn't grow up around guns. They haven't taken the time to get to know kind of what these laws mean. I'm curious what kind of misinformation was being fed to her to make her think that this is a law that could do anything to make anybody safer.
So here's the thing.
I think,
Do we have an opportunity to talk to her?
So here's the thing. I think that's a totally legit thought and comment. And
it doesn't matter,
but
she still shouldn't be endorsed by SDCGL.
But here's the thing. Laurie Davies and I actually text. So she could have reached out to me and didn't.
Yeah.
She could have reached out to CRPA and didn't. She could have reached out to NRA and didn't. She also has a lot of people in Orange County around her, I know personally, who are extremely interested in Second Amendment, who are extremely knowledgeable on guns, and she didn't reach out to them either. I think the calculus here, and this is a major mistake by every politician, is they go, I'm in this squishy purple district, so I'm going to pick up some votes if I vote the other way. If I can walk into a room full of people and say, oh, well, I voted, for better gun safety or whatever. She thinks she's going to pick up votes by voting against this. But what she's going to do is she's going to lose the gun community. So I don't know, maybe she will net a couple of anti-gun votes out of this, but she's hopefully going to lose a lot of pro-Second Amendment votes because of this.
I need to make a quick amendment really quickly. I was in error. There was one second Republican that also voted, Juan Alanis.
Okay. All right.
Correct my statement.
She's one of two.
One of two.
I'm curious if there's a better pro Second Amendment person in that district before I say let's make sure all the gun people don't vote for her. Well, let's make sure that her opponent that we would be helping get elected if we all pull our votes from her is at least a little bit better on Second Amendment issues.
Well, I'm sure they're not. I mean, that's a tough choice. I'm sure that they are not. I'm sure that her opponent, I don't know who her opponent is yet, but I'm sure that they will not be better on Second Amendment issues. But here's the thing, and she's going to kind of whisper, I'm putting words in her mouth. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say that politicians in the past in this situation have kind of whispered and said, look, it was going to pass anyway. I just did this, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if it just doesn't matter anymore. I think at this point, I think that we need to be able to say, hey, you know what? If you're not going to vote the way we need you to vote, if you're not going to represent us, if you're not going to differentiate us from bad guys, if you're going to make us look bad publicly, if you're going to put bad laws into place, if you're not even going to bother to check with gun organizations, then we may as well have an anti-gun person in your seat. Until you absolutely say, hey, look, I'm with you unapologetically on principle, philosophically and in practice, I think we got to get rid of. I mean, the same argument that I'm assuming that a politician like in that position would use, by saying, hey, look, it was going to pass anyway, so it's not a big deal, is the same one that we could use against her. Okay, well, that if it was going to pass anyway,
why did you vote?
Why would we vote for her?
Right.
It's going to pass anyway. Just put an anti-gun in person in there.
Right.
It's going to pass anyway. Why do we need her to fight? Why do we need her to stand up for us? Why do we need her to, defend us and be our voice? I mean, it's going to pass anyway. So that same argument that they use to try to justify their bad behavior can be used against them. Anyway, that's the update. That is the update for both SB 704 and AB 1263. I'm sure lawsuits will follow. There's a whole long list of lawsuits that need to get filed and will get filed, and we'll keep you up to date as to exactly who gets endorsed next year. So there you go. There's your update. Okay, if you're a fan of the show, then you know our next guest. We've interviewed him before. His name is Russell Stuart from Beverly Hills Guns. Amazing guy, really motivated. I love talking to him, and he's done something particularly interesting. He is the author of a new book called Reclaiming Men. I wanted to see exactly what we have to learn from Reclaiming Men and what it's all about, so we're bringing him on the show to talk more about it. Russell Stuart from Beverly Hills Guns on Reclaiming Men. How are you, Russell?
I am fantastic. Thank you guys so much for having me back.
You bet, man. Hey, so talk about the book. I was really interested. I saw it on your Facebook page, And Reclaiming Men, it was it's an interesting title, and I would say that generally it's kind of a hot topic right now, or it's something that's much discussed. So tell us, what's the premise of the book?
Well, like you said, it's definitely a topic that is on the tip of a lot of people's tongues, especially on the conservative point of view spectrum. Look, I mean, young men in America are breaking. We have lost a sense of purpose. We've lost a sense of responsibility, strength, vision. Young men are being talked down to, are being torn apart. They're being feminized. They are being demonized. Being just as what we grew up with as just being a solid dude is now considered toxic. It's considered bad, and it's been throughout society. It's been throughout entertainment and media, especially in media. I was actually just watching an interview from the old cast of the show The Office about how they could never make that show now because of the language and subject matter. And then he said, yeah, but the lead character was still a bumbling idiot. And dads have been showcased as being not smart and not manly, because being a man means toxic. And it's really taking its toll. And even a few minutes ago in our pre-interview, I'd mentioned that Vogue magazine had just come out with an article this morning about having a boyfriend is bad and telling girls to shun having a boyfriend because all men are toxic and stay away. It's a way that society has taken all of these young men and they have gotten out of the workforce. They're staying at home longer. They're overweight. They are not learning at the same pace as girls are in school. Suicides are up. Alcoholism is up. Porn is up. And it has all been this generational destruction of our young men.
Wow. Now, what is your interest in this, or what's your experience in this? Like, what motivated you to write a book on this subject?
Well, one is I'm a guy, and I'm a guy's guy. And when I'm watching, especially my male friends' kids, because I'm at that age group now, when I'm watching them grow up in a society that doesn't value them and that's not giving them the tools and the outlets to become the leaders of tomorrow, I'm terrified. I'm also a father of a 7-year-old girl. What kind of man is she going to be wanting to be around and grow up with to understand what being manly is? And also too, last year I was elected onto the Beverly Hills Unified School District Board of Education. So now I am on a daily basis, I'm seeing these kids at school, and I'm seeing how they're not getting the right tools to become leaders. Most young men can't even look you in the eye anymore. Most of them don't know what their purpose is in life. Most of them are terrified. They don't have a friendship circle. They don't have anyone to keep them accountable. Even coaches aren't the same anymore, because the coaches are too worried about pushing the kids too far or being too tough on them. We don't have men anymore, and we don't have any, a preparation ability of creating men. And this is now creating a toxic environment where now you get, and not to be offensive, but, they get the Andrew Tates of the world who are basically grabbing, young men and pushing them to one extreme side. Or you have the other side, the Hollywood feminization of men, where it's being soft and, and emotional and maybe even androgynous. That's where men should be. There's no more just American dads or American men who you can count on. Men used to have skills. I used to be able to go to my dad and ask anything. How do you change a tire to how do you do math? And he knew everything. Nowadays, these men don't know anything because they're looking, inward at emotional things instead of outward at physical things. And so, it's something that if we do not change it now, we are in deep trouble.
I agree. So if you could pinpoint a moment in history, I mean, it wasn't like this in the 60s. It's clearly like this now, I mean, in the 50s, there was, father knows best. So it clearly wasn't then, but it clearly is now. If you had to pinpoint a moment in history, when did this start?
Well, I think it's difficult to pinpoint the exact moment, but at least from my experience, especially since I've been on the school board, I think when education got away from as we call here, career technical education, or as we grew up with, auto shop, wood shop, things of that nature, things with your hands, building things, accomplishing things. We went away from that and we went into more social sciences and how you think and how you feel, which is fine. I mean, we all want to be good critical thinkers, but we took doing and replaced that with feeling. And I really believe that now, I mean, across America, there's not too many schools left that have auto shop or wood shop or metal shop. And now with the advancements of AI, everyone's looking back at going, hey, I don't need to know how you feel about it. What can you do? And unfortunately, now we have a generation, especially of men, because men are doers. We have this onslaught of men who really don't know how to do anything, but they know how to feel everything. And that has been one of the biggest shifts in our culture to where the doers are practically now extinct.
Do you think that this is the results of culture issues or political issues, or what's causing it, or where's it coming from?
I think it's both. I think that from, especially on the political front, especially out here in places like California, that there has been more of a push into social justice, into people's emotional well-beings. But unfortunately, when it comes to men, especially, I grew up in a world where I had responsibilities. I had duty. I had to accomplish things. Nobody cared if I had a cold. Nobody cared how I felt. I had a responsibility to accomplish. That has now been replaced, and I truly think it started in the education system. It got replaced with, if you don't feel like it, you don't have to do it. Men's entire being is purpose. And purpose's number one trait that it does not require is how you feel about it. Yes, you want to use feeling and emotion to make sure that it's righteous and make sure that it's done at the highest level. But the saying that you got to punch your ticket every day to get the job done is not optional. In modern society, kids think that they have choices of getting up in the morning and doing their job. And I believe the transition into asking someone's opinion or feelings on doing the basics was the downfall.
So why is that a male trait? In other words, being responsible and getting up and doing what you have to do every day, and even if you have a cold or whatever, why is that a male trait? And more specifically, why, if that's the way the world is going, why is it only having a negative impact on men, or is it having a negative impact on women, but just in a different way? Or to talk about that for just a minute.
That's a great question. It's not a male trait. The problem is that society, and again, if you go back to the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s, where women were saying, you don't need a man. You can be just as successful in corporate America and sports and all of these other things, which I completely agree with. But there was a shift away from maintaining a men's mentality that they had a duty to perform. And they shifted that into women. And that's why you've got incredible women in high leadership, in corporate America, in government, and all the power to them. Fantastic. But the shift was into making sure women became a bit more manly. And then, of course, in society now we've seen to shift men to be a bit more feminine. And that doesn't mean that it changes the mindset of getting up in the morning, but there's been this more a pressure on men to stop being so quote unquote masculine. And a part of that masculine trait is you were the doer. It's people expected men, the cops, the garbage men, the firemen, the construction worker. No one cares about how their day is going. Are they going to get that job done on time and on budget? Are they going to show up? Are they going to do? If I run up to them and say, I need your help, it is yes. It's someone that has that drive to always be there and to always succeed. And not to say that was not a female thing either, but when you take away that feeling that men are not needed, that do not need to be responsible, that can have the choice of saying, I don't need to show up today because it's just not my cup of tea. we've now educated young people that is acceptable. And unfortunately, they've now taken on that role now in greater ways. And we're seeing the effects that now we just do not have reliable, capable men in society. And trust me, the effects are devastating.
Interesting. I had an interesting experience about a month ago, and bear with me for just a minute while I give some context. I was having a discussion with somebody about the difference between men and women these days, and the male loneliness epidemic that people are talking about. And I dropped her off, and then I went and did three things. It was a beautiful day. I took a nice drive by San Diego Bay. I ate at a nice restaurant for lunch, and then I went to the gym. And the reason I tell you I did those three things is while I was driving along the bay, I saw tons of joggers, and they were all women. When I went to lunch at this nice restaurant, there were mostly women having lunch with other women, and they were dressed up and made up in the middle of the day on a Saturday. And I saw very few men, and they were a mess. They were, slovenly, compared to the women. And then when I went to the gym, it was almost all women. There were like two guys in there that were clearly, bodybuilders and may even be competitive. Like they were that much into it. The rest of the gym were women. And I started thinking to myself that, women are putting in the work. Women are graduating college because women are going to college and taking it seriously. Women are buying houses because they're caring about their career and they're setting money aside. Women are putting in the work. Women aren't overweight because they're the ones that were out jogging, go to the gym and all that other stuff. So this is, just to play devil's advocate, why isn't it as simple as, hey, women are just outperforming men, and if men want to, catch up, then they need to catch up?
That's not playing devil's advocate at all. It's just a fact. Men have not been accountable to other men. In fact, I have an entire chapter called, Rebuilding the Tribe. You do not see men out there together. You do not see groups of men at the gym. You don't see them out running because we're not holding each other accountable. We're not going to our friends saying, "Hey, bro, now we're gym buddies. We got to be there at 6 a.m. 3 days a week." We're accepting mediocrity, and then again, because society about what we've done to men, now we're accepting the fact that woman who is taking care of herself, that does have the six-figure job and's got the great sports car, every single thing that the guy thought that he should have, instead of saying, bro, what are we doing? Let's get back on the saddle. Let's feel bad for ourselves. Let's, talk about feelings, and let's go on a podcast and talk about, where things went wrong and my dad didn't push me hard enough and yada, yada, yada. Having a tribe of men who will hold you accountable and say, bro, I'm not going to let you gain 5 more pounds. I'm not going to have you, have another shot of whiskey at, 3:00 in the morning on a Tuesday. We need each other to police each other. And that is just something that's gone far off on the wayside. And women have always had that support group. And men have always had struggles that if you're going to use feelings, then use it on each other. And call up that buddy and say, bro, tomorrow morning, jog time, because we got to hold each other accountable. And women do it all the time. It might be done in a little bit of a different social way, but men are not there for other men, and that's got to stop.
That's interesting. That's what a great way of putting it. Okay, so what's the solution then? How do we I think everybody can articulate their version of the problem. I think that most of the problems, at least from 30,000 feet, or maybe even more specific than that, people know what the problem is. We get what the problem is. Everybody sees the problem on a daily basis. What are the solutions that what's a solution, or what are these solutions that the book is bringing out?
Well, I think that, there's so many solutions, but the number one solution is a self-reflection that men have to stop seeing themselves as the victim. We need to get back to the core. And the number one thing that we keep talking about in the book is purpose. Or, if you do not have a purpose-driven life, you really don't have anything. That to go back to the basics and say, let's get up every morning and let's accomplish something. Let's bring in, a sense of duty, a sense of I need to be up on time. I'm not going to talk back to my mother. I'm going to show up to, school on time. I'm going to show up to my job on time. I'm not a victim. Get back to helping people. Get back to being in community. It's all of these victim mentality where men have seeming to take over this role of, life is against me. The world is against me. I'm not getting enough money. I'm too fat. I'm too this. No, we need to just get back to a self-reflection of responsibility. And the moment that we can just take accountability for our own actions, which I know is not simple, especially in today's day and age, everyone's worried about their jobs with AI and politics and crime and all of these other things. But in the end, if we are not able to take a self-reflection and say, what am I in this society? Am I a victim, or am I someone that can contribute? But it starts with themselves. They need to become more self-reliant. Put the phone down, put the social media down. Don't look for the likes and the shares and all of the external stuff that they need to say, well, if someone doesn't like me, then I don't like myself. It's got to start from within. And the moment that we can recognize that we need more purpose in our own lives, it's at least the beginning building blocks to start trying to turn this whole thing around.
So there are clearly people that are causing this. You just brought up an article. I think you said it was in, what was it, Vanity Fair or something?
Vogue magazine, yeah.
Vogue magazine, where Vogue said, is having a boyfriend embarrassing, whatever. So there are clearly people causing this issue. How do you, what is a pathway for men in general to reverse the trend of the stereotypes or the lack of respect, or screw it? Who cares about their stereotypes and lack of respect? Just do your thing and do it well. Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a great question. And I think what you had mentioned about when you saw some of the girlfriends out at a lunch, like, they're taking care of themselves. They're looking their best. And I cannot believe how many men I have seen either when I was out traveling at an airport or at a grocery store, just a lack of respect for themselves. They're just looking frumpy. They're out of shape. They don't care how they roll out of bed. There's a self-respect that I really believe that men have lost. Side note, we at the school district, we were doing a construction project, and we unveiled a time capsule from 1939 from the Beverly Hills Unified School District. And one of the things that I had noticed in this newspaper thing, I believe it was a shot of the basketball team. All of these young men looked like they were in boxing shape, clean cut, perfect shape, good looking guys. Just, it was a different era. Nowadays, obesity is through the roof. Everyone, sorry, not everyone, but a large majority of kids are not in good shape, which means that they're not going to feel confident. They're not going to feel like they can show their best selves. And when they're not looking the part, dressing the part, acting the part, it gives people, and not just women, but it gives society and media and Hollywood the opportunity now of using that and say, well, why would a beautiful, happening, educated CEO woman want this? And I couldn't agree more. And that is why you see a lot more power women out there doing fantastic, and a lot more men who are more emotion-based getting frumpy, turning to porn, unfortunately, alcohol, drugs, food, and they're not becoming the leader men that society needs. And unfortunately, that trend is just getting worse and worse and worse. But then having mainstream media then take advantage of that, and then turning to that woman and say, you don't even need him anyway. And now it's got to a point where it's not, you don't need him, you can be your own boss. It's, you don't need him because he's not even worth it. He's gross. And that is something that men are feeling more and more. And it's just a dangerous cycle, because how do you break someone's spirit is not only say that they'll never make it, but no one loves them either.
It is interesting how, I've seen over my life, I've come to this realization, and this is a broad, generalization, but it definitely appears to me that in general, men love women, and people can
vice versa.
Well, it's actually where I was going to go with that was men love women. like they just love women. And I mean,
Oh,
sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes they see them as objects, but for the most part, men are just like, hey, if they want to spend time with women, they want to talk to women, they want to, whatever. They just think women are great, and any shape or size or whatever, they just love women. And whereas I don't think women have that same opinion of men. I think women, it's almost like they barely tolerate men. And if you fit into this, this small criteria, these tiny little standards, some of which are very materialistic, then okay, maybe they'll let you have time with them. I don't know. Am I completely off base? Am I just being affected by media, or what are your thoughts on that?
no, I think you're totally right. I mean, I think I don't know if it's an age-old saying, but I think that there's a concept that, the average man can't walk into a bar and take home a girl, but any woman can walk into a bar and say, I'm available, and she'll have 900 guys, who are ready to go. So, I mean, sure, women are more picky, but I think in the end, in today's society, if you ask the modern average woman, are you looking for a good man? Maybe in the last 25 years, it's like, oh, no, I want a man who's successful and 6 foot tall and a six pack and a jet and yada, yada, yada. That's the dream man. But I think in today's society, where more and more women who are going into the corporate world, getting master's degrees, becoming CEOs and becoming very successful, are also now creating a void in their lives because they've gone down the corporate road. They did not go down the family road. Now the biological clock is ticking. And, and this is nothing new, but now they realize going, wow, okay, I'm 40. I've got $1 million in the bank. I'm killing it. I'm a, famous CEO. I've got 9 books out, but I don't have a husband and I don't have kids. And because of their income level and their success level, they are getting into those circles of high-powered men. And then those high-powered men are going, but you're me. You're not very feminine. You're not family oriented. You're not someone who I'm looking for. And then that becomes even more strife because now it's like, well, men are even worse now because I've gotten everything that I've wanted and they're not recognizing that we're on an equal playing field. And a lot of men are going, well, I don't want to be on an equal playing field. I want the mother of my kids. I want someone more feminine or someone more homely. And that's creating this other whole problem. So I think if you ask a lot of modern women, especially on the conservative side of things, what are you looking for in a man? It's not the same conversation as it was 15 or 20 years ago. It's not all the accolades and the six pack and the money and all that. Is he just a good guy? Is he going to be a good dad? Is he going to show up to dinner on time? Is he going to be able to fix the porch? And it's really kind of going, oh, wow, that sounds like my dad. That sounds like old school dad. Well, and I really think that there's a shift going back there.
And that's kind of where I was going with this, reclaiming men. And, like you pointed out, women can make their own money now. There's, I guess, the things, if you go back to traditional roles that men and women had, the things that men brought to the table, women have without men these days. If she needs a handyman, she can hire a handyman. If she needs, a 6-figure job or 6-figure income, she can go make 6 figures. There are a lot of ways the world has changed to make men less valuable, for lack of a better word. So I guess my question is, if somebody is reclaiming, their manhood, if someone is, listening to this or reads the book, and they think, I need to follow this advice, what do they bring to the table? What is a man's best foot forward when talking to a woman? Why is it important? Why should women see it as important that we reclaim men?
Well, I think the number one thing is reliability. I think that society has created this mindset that men are expendable. You don't need a man, but men's reliability has been the number one thing. Like when my daughter comes to me, she's coming to me because she knows I can do it. She knows I can fix it. She knows I have the answer. And men have become less and less educated, less and less strong, less and less capable. men don't know how to do much anymore. In fact, I've got one line on the back of my book that says, your grandparent stormed the beaches of Normandy and you can't even change a tire. We don't have abilities anymore.
Yeah.
And when women are becoming more educated, 2 out of 3 women are twice as educated as the average American man now. Most men aren't even going to college. They're staying in your mom's basement until they're 28. They're getting married later, and they're not learning as many skills as their father or, God forbid, their grandfather did. So when you are less valuable to society, every woman is going to see that. And I'm sorry, even the corporate CEO female, even if you are even seen as the handyman in the relationship, if you don't even know how to change a light bulb, then you're not even a handyman. You're just a guy. And that is something that the number one thing is let's start learning to do more.
Yeah.
Men used to be the Swiss Army knife of society. And now we are useless. And that is the number one thing for me is, what can you do? And again, I talk a lot about AI, and I've got a lot of big name AI clients here at the gun shop. Mm-hmm. And they talk a lot about what kind of employees are going to be needed in the future, as we're seeing all across corporate America, how many jobs are being cut, especially mid-level and mostly entry-level jobs are being cut for AI. It's because no one's capable anymore. So many people are coming out of high school and out of college, and they have a degree in basket weaving, but they can't do anything. And shockingly enough, the last jobs that the robots are going to be able to take over are electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, contractors, carpenters, all the doers, all the stuff that we used to learn in career technical education in school that we got rid of 30 years ago in exchange for feelings. Well, my feelings are not going to rebuild that deck or change that tire. And that is the beginning, I believe, where so many people see the title of the book and like, oh, you mean like dudes being toxic and getting big muscles and tattoos and being like misogynist? I'm like, no. Can they, repave their driveway? Can they be responsible? Is their word absolute gold when they say they're going to do it and say that they're going to get it done? Is that a guarantee? It's getting back to the core of manhood, not what society has shown for 30 years, where it's all about being, alpha. Yeah. I think the most alpha thing that you can do is be a reliable, trustworthy, and motivated human being. And right now, even in my own circle of friends, I don't have that many men in my life that I believe are that kind of person. And I should have it, and like I called it in the book, a tribe of guys that I can call upon, that if I got something wrong or I need something fixed or something helped, I've got a team of people around me to not only help me and get that job done, but to motivate me and to keep me accountable. So I'm always operating at that highest level.
Well, I like the approach that, you're staying away from, blame, it's somebody else's fault. You're staying away from victimhood. I think that's really great. And if it sounds like, there are two big advantages, and whether or not one's more important than the other, but there are two big advantages to reclaiming, manhood, or reclaiming men, or becoming a better man, is the obvious one, women. And then the non-woman one is just personal fulfillment and happiness. It sounds like, all the things that we've talked about or that you've heard or read online or whatever, the loneliness epidemic or, depression or, all these things that are happening to the male population would go away if they would just go back to a little bit more of a traditional, accomplishment-based life. Did I summarize that fairly accurately?
100%. And again, purpose. It's purpose. And again, in society, the moment, whoever it was, I would love to, shake that person. But the person who came up with the concept of the participation trophy.
Yeah.
That person, I don't know what wacko degree that they have in psychology, but the person that said, striving to be your best, striving to win, striving to succeed, which is also the mission of showing others what hard work does, yeah, and the accolades it gives you for being the best and being the best that you can be, whoever took that away really stripped a portion of society and plummeted it into a place where we are now, where even the concept of winning or having purpose to say, I want to get up in the morning and run one more extra lap because I know that if I do that, I'm going to win that trophy. But when everyone gets one, who gives a crap? So
Nice.
it's really this shift in society where we need to get back into, like exactly what you said, a more accomplishment-based system. And that starts at home. It starts with just getting up in the morning, making your bed,
right.
getting to school on time, getting to work on time, getting the best job that you can do, having integrity, doing the best, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. All these little things are the things that make the original man what women loved, what built society, what kept us safe, and what built the Western world that is the envy of the entire planet. And unfortunately, now we have gotten away from that, and we're watching society crumble around us. And yes, it's not purely just men itself, but if men can get back to these more traditional way of operating, and again, not to then say we're getting back to toxicity and all of these labels that have been placed on us, which is why so many men are afraid of being, quote unquote, a man, but to get back to being what everyone believes at their core men are. Men are people that are trustworthy and reliable and will get the job done.
100%. I think the question where I said, hey, what's a moment in time where things changed? I think you just answered the question. I think the invention of the participation trophy is maybe the answer to what moment in time do things start to change. I think that's hilarious. Do you remember the Man Show with Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel?
What polar opposites those guys are now, but yes, of course.
So that's where I'm going. It's almost like those. It was like there was a crossroads. That show was a crossroads, and you could either go on to be Adam Carolla or you could go on to be Jimmy Kimmel. And too many of us have gone on to be Jimmy Kimmel, and boy, is that not working. We need to get back to being more Adam Carollas, perhaps.
Sure, but look at the success of Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, I'm sure if you looked at their bank accounts, Jimmy Kimmel's doing a hell of a lot better. In society, Jimmy Kimmel is incredibly famous. He's got a lot of people that backed him when Trump called for his removal from ABC. So if you look at the global championing of who society as a media think is the winner of that duo, if there was a competition, it would be Jimmy Kimmel. But I think from any traditional male perspective, Adam Carolla is going to die a solid male human being who fought for his fellow man, where Jimmy Kimmel, to certain groups, is going to be called a hero, but to, at least in my mind, is going to be someone who traded his man card for a paycheck and for a place in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Anything else you want people to know? How do they find your book? If they want to read this book, if they want to buy it, where do they go?
You can go to reclaimingmenbook.com, which sends you over to Amazon. It's available in ebook, hardcover, and paperback. I've also would love to give out free copies to anyone who is a teacher or instructor or someone from a church or anyone who wants to lead and learn some tricks of the trade and techniques to talk to young men, so they can reach out to me at media@russellstuart.com and send me an email, and I would love to send them a complimentary copy. And I just hope that if someone can get inspired by it, even if they just read the back cover, which you can actually read on Amazon.com, it's got some information there that if it can inspire one person and get them back on track and turn them into the man that they need to be. It used to be what we hope that they can be. Now it's what they need to be. Because if we cannot get some more people back on a traditional path where they are just really strong-charactered, good-hearted men that we grew up with, we're in deep trouble. So if it can help one person, it was very much worth the effort to get this book done.
Great job. Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to not only reading it, but buying it for folks for Christmas. I already have a couple of folks in mind. Great job. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, now it's time for Stump My Nephew. My nephew Sam is particularly good at gun trivia, and he's on all the time here, and we ask him questions that you send in that have to do with guns or gun trivia or gun history or something having to do with Second Amendment. If we use your question on the air, we're going to give you a hat or a shirt. And if you stump my nephew, you're going to get a really, really special prize. And it's actually very cool. He does a really good job. He doesn't get to hear the questions until we ask him on the air. He doesn't get to research them. This is all his own knowledge. I can promise you that he knows all this stuff, that he answers it with sincerity, and it's all in his head because I have spent time with him in person and tried to stump him myself, and it is virtually impossible. So, without further ado, Sam, how's it going, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Very good. All right, Alicia, fire it up. What do you got?
Sam. All right, Sam, our question today comes from Steve from Palos Verdes, and he asks, what was the first double-action, single-action firearm?
Steve from Palos Verdes. Haven't heard that one before. Thank you very much for writing in. What was the first double-action, single-action firearm? I can name the first double-action, single-action pistol, but it'll take me a little bit of thinking to get to the first double-action, single-action firearm. I know that the first self-loading pistol that has that type of trigger system was the Walther P38. I'm pretty sure. I think it was the Walther P38, which has some of its DNA made its way into the Beretta 92 family. So if you carry a 92 FS, or if you've been issued an M9 in the military, that's got the sort of the same similar action, same locking system, similar trigger mechanism to a Walther P38. But first double action, single action firearm. I know there were revolvers with DASA trigger systems long before that. Like double action, single action. I don't know. Was the Smith & Wesson number 3 a DASA? I don't know. You know what? I feel like it's gonna be some musket that the Billy Bob made one of, and it never went anywhere because it was too expensive to produce with 1700s technology. That's what it's going to be.
So I will tell you,
He's not too far off.
I will tell you that they made a point of saying that this was the first successful and documented DASA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Billy Bob made 10 of them.
Yeah. Well, it is something that in theory you would have heard of. It is something that's been published or, actually has, merit. It's not Billy Bob in West Virginia or whatever.
Well, this doesn't probably help, but I had never heard of this. Had you ever heard of this?
I've never heard of any of these answers, though. That doesn't
Yeah, none of us had ever heard of it. We're all gun people. We're just not gun people like Sam is a gun person.
Well, apparently I'm not a gun person like I'm a gun person because I can't even begin to take a stab at the answer.
No?
All right.
Okay.
All right, here it is. All right, so the first true double...
Wait.
No, it's going to be something that I've heard of or I've written about, and now I'm going to be mad at myself for the rest of the week.
All right, last chance. Anything else? Any other?
Can I give like a little bit of like potential context?
Hint. Go ahead.
So this did become a U.S. patent.
Yeah.
It was in the 1800s.
Well, all right.
Does that help?
That's a big hint, but go ahead. All right.
Well, guys, I've been very busy messing up an AR-15 from Bravo Company Manufacturing, but we want to talk about cleaning this weapon up so we can continue shooting it. And to that end, Dwight, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah. Seal One products are bio-based, non-toxic, okay? And it is one product that clean, lubricates, and protects. So we call it a CLP Plus because it actually works.
Yeah, that I don't know. Smith & Wesson number 1 or number 3. I'm gonna say the number 1. It's probably
all
wrong.
right. Well, read the answer.
So the first true double action, single action firearm is the Beaumont-Adams revolver from 1855.
Have you heard of that?
Okay, yeah, I don't feel bad about not getting that.
All right.
It says this widely recognized as the first true DASA handgun. It was the Adams revolver in The original Adams 1851 revolver was double action only. In 1855, Lieutenant Frederick Beaumont added a separate hammer spur and sear, allowing both the DASA option. So
this made the Beaumont-Adams the first successful and clearly documented DASA firearm. Other early candidates, less complete or not widely accepted, would be pinfire revolvers, the Lafaw 1830s. That's how I say it.
Okay.
Sometimes had hybrid trigger. You know, if you want your names pronounced correctly, then win a world war. Otherwise, sometimes had hybrid trigger systems, but they did not provide both true DA or true SA functionality. The other one they said is the Collier 1818 revolver had complex actions, but they were not a true DASA. So, what do you think, man? Have you? So you never heard of that? The Beaumont-Adams revolver?
It's that's one of those I had heard the name but didn't know anything about it. So what was the gentleman's name who sent it in?
That's
Stephen.
Yeah.
Steve
from Palos Verdes.
Steve from Palos Verdes. You got me good. That was a good question. You got me.
Well, there you go. Well, that goes to prove that on occasion you can stump my nephew. So good job anyway, Sam. You can't win them all, although you come close. So there you go. We all learned a little bit about the Beaumont-Adams revolver from 1855, the first DASA. So there you go. All right. So I was invited to talk to a very cool new club at a high school here in San Diego. It's called Club America. And I was invited by a very dynamic and articulate young woman who is a senior there at this high school. Her name is Jamie Miller. You may have seen Jamie Miller in some of our, one in particular, a video that we did promoting Gun Prom, where she actually did a competitive shoot in her prom dress. So she's a competitive shooter. She's a trained shooter. She's a Second Amendment advocate, and she's an absolutely wonderful person. Jamie Miller, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So how was it shooting a competition in a prom dress? That's something I've yet to do.
I mean, very thankful that I was wearing my boots and not heels. But I mean, it's definitely one of those experiences that I will never forget. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity that you guys let me do that and for something so important.
There you go. Okay, so first shooting tip, boots, not high heels. Gotcha. There will be more to come. So, okay, so you started Club America at your high school here in San Diego.
I did.
You invited me to come and talk. I think this was your first meeting to come and talk about the Second Amendment. Is that right?
It was our third official meeting, but it was our first ever guest speaker.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Third meeting, first ever guest speaker. So talk about Club America. Why did you start Club America?
So I'm actually the vice president of Club America. One of my close friends, she is our president. We started this club, a bunch of my friends, because we are a group that is very passionate about politics and what's going on in the world and things like that. And we used to be getting in trouble by teachers, and not necessarily in trouble, but we'd get kind of told to pipe down and be quiet and put that up more on the hush hush side of things, or go talk about that outside of class. Even when we're in history class and we're talking about politics, we'd be getting told to be quieter. And we just wanted a space that we could talk about what's going on in the world. And not only that, be able to educate other students at our school who may not be as informed, because we are the next voters.
Now, okay, so you're talking about politics and teachers are telling you to quiet down or pipe down. Were you purposely being adversarial, or were you just having a discussion, or why do you think that they felt the need to tell you to stop talking? So let's talk about 1791 Group. If your business is in the firearms industry, you've probably felt it. Marketing's expensive, social media is hostile, and it's far too easy to get lost in the noise.
The 1791 group fixes that. They help you to cut through the clutter by clarifying your message so customers instantly understand why they should buy from you. Then they build the systems, your website, CRM, ads, and content that actually turn interest into sales. And because they understand the community, they can even get your brand in front of our gun owners' radio audience, which includes over 100,000 engaged gun owners every month.
Don't waste another dollar on marketing that doesn't work. Go to 1791group.com, that's 1791group.com, and tell them Michael from Gun Owners Radio sent you. Start growing with a team that's on your side. Or why do you think that they felt the need to tell you to stop talking?
I mean, I do go to a public school, so I think that that is a big part about it. And as most people know, teachers are a very left-leaning job, which is something that I want to change personally, but that's a story for another time. At our school, a lot of students are very quote-unquote sensitive to certain subjects, and I feel that admin thinks that they need to shield and protect students, even though high school should be preparing us for the real world.
So just because of the opinions, so the opinions that you guys were discussing would generally be right of center, and because of those, because they were right of center opinions, your teachers said, hey, shut it down?
Pretty much.
That's ridiculous. Do they also do that to the folks in your high school that are left-leaning?
Not usually.
Not usually. Isn't that interesting? So you decided to come up with this club, which is a safe space to talk about politics. And I'll tell you, I thought it was really interesting. I want to talk about the difficulties you had even launching this club.
Yes.
But I thought it was really interesting when after my talk, I was talking to you and some of the folks in your club. And I said, I asked, like, hey, is this generally right-leaning? And you said, yeah, the people here are. And I said, well, what would happen if somebody wanted to come talk about politics and they were left-leaning? And you said, we'd love it. We want them to come in and have that discussion. And
Correct.
I think that is a meaningful and substantial difference between the political left and the political right. Is the political right, they want the left to come and have discussions and talk and, debate, and the left doesn't want, they want to shut it down. And you see this on talk shows. You hear about people like Bill Maher talks about how Republicans come on his show all the time, and he cannot get Democrats that he actually has supported to come on the talk show. So I think it's really, really interesting. And I commend you for being so open-minded and willing to, debate and talk and discuss. I think that that's a really important point to bring up about your club.
I mean, not only is this something that both me and all of my friends believe should be happening when it comes to the political spectrum, our Club America is actually associated with Turning Point, and Turning Point was associated with Charlie Kirk, and that was his purpose.
So is that why? So first off, before I ask that question, what happened when you went to start this club? By the way, by club, what you're talking about is, I remember when I was in like junior high, they'd have like the physics club, or the Dungeons and Dragons club or whatever, or the robot making club. And basically, I think it was once a week, there'd be a period where everybody would go to their club and it'd be some kind of, enrichment time where they talk about the subject or whatever, Is that what we're talking about here? Is that the kind of club that is the same thing, or have things changed?
Correct. Yes, our club meets every fourth Monday of every month as of right now, just because we are a newer club trying to gain members. Hopefully we will be able to have more meetings once we can grow our club.
For the record, I couldn't make it in the physics club. I just knew it existed. I didn't want to give the wrong impression that I was actually in the physics club. But okay, so you went to establish this club. What kind of obstacles did you run into?
We faced a lot of obstacles, and I definitely want to give my club president a very big point of this. I don't think our club would have gotten approved without her. She went through multiple discussions with the group of people who approve clubs for our school, which is our ASB. And these were hour-long conversations where they had to take a break in between because we had students that are left-leaning blow it quite out of proportion when it came to what our club was really about, without even listening to what our club was for, why we created it. They heard Club America, they heard Turning Point, they associate it with right, and frankly, they got scared. There were students crying, and honestly, it just was really sad to see them get so defensive when we had another club on our school pretty much get immediately approved, besides a request for a name change, that is a left-leaning club.
So a left-leaning club, a political left club, got approved immediately with no problems at all. But your club, because it was right-leaning and affiliated with Turning Point, got put through the ringer. What was their concern? Like, what were they afraid was going to happen if you guys were able to sit in a room and talk to each other?
Correct. I mean, most of us, we don't quite know why they were so afraid of our club being brought onto campus. We have clubs that don't agree on political beliefs, on moral values. That's what makes us all human.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard to understand where they were coming from. If we, right-leaning, are being like, okay, you guys can have what you want and what you believe, because someone should stick up for that. Someone should stand for that. That's what makes us human. That's what gives us civil discussions. But they felt that they would be, quote unquote, targeted if our club was approved.
Okay. And your club was approved. You've now had 3 meetings and one guest speaker. Well, technically 2. It was me and Dakota. Dakota and I both came and spoke about gun ownership and the Second Amendment and the history of. Have they been targeted, or is everybody safe and sound and happy?
Everyone is completely fine. And again, we want people who are left to come to our clubs. We want to create an environment where we can have these civil conversations without immediately assuming something from someone else. And no one has shown up. And frankly, as many people that I know at school that are right-leaning, they are not showing up as well, because they know the problems that we had getting our club approved, and they don't want that affecting them personally.
Oh, wow.
And that's also pretty sad to see.
That's interesting. So as far as the job we did, first off, having a Second Amendment guest speakers, what was the feedback, or what was the reaction? Everything go smoothly there, or was anybody happy?
Absolutely. I could not have asked for anything better. You guys did an amazing job from getting our points across to time management, and it felt very much more of a conversation than it would be a lecture if we were in a class.
Good. That's awesome. But did you get any pushback from outside, any of the teachers or anything, or any comments from students?
No, not really. I feel, again, most of them are scared to say anything against us, thinking that we're going to start targeting them. But say something to me. Let me have this conversation with you on why I believe the Second Amendment is important. You explain to me why you believe something else. We can disagree and have a conversation.
Well, other than it being the funnest amendment, why is the Second Amendment important to you?
I mean, growing up around guns and around that environment, I find it important. We have family. My grandfather, he went hunting. We have my grandfather on my other side, my mom's dad, he was in the military. And at the end of the day, it is something that was made in order to keep us safe as civilians in our homes.
Good. That's awesome. You're doing a great job, Jamie. Thank you so much. So you're a senior, right?
Yes.
Do you have any plans for the future? Have you committed to a college, or what are you thinking you want to do?
I have not committed to a college yet. I am still in the application process, finishing a couple and waiting to hear back from some. I plan to go to a 4-year college straight off the bat and go into the education major, hoping to become a teacher.
Oh, wow. Good for you. That's awesome. I didn't know that. But right now you're making you're holding your cards close to your chest, and you're making the colleges fight over you. I like that. I think that's a good idea. Don't give in yet. Make them keep fighting for you. That's good. Do you have a preferred college? Like what? I don't know. Should I ask you that? Do you want to? Do you have a preferred college, or should we make the colleges keep guessing and fighting?
I have a preferred college, but my parents' preferred college for me is quite different.
Why talk about that? How come mom and dad's preferred college for you is different than yours?
Mom and dad want me close to home.
Oh,
and
dad.
Genuinely, it makes sense. And if I get in, I will most likely stay home.
Yeah.
But my dream school is on the opposite side of the country.
Really? You're allowed to disclose? Which one?
Alabama.
Alabama, really?
Alabama.
Roll Tide. That's interesting. Wait. Alabama's Roll Tide, right? Yeah, okay. All right, good.
You got it right.
Good. Just making sure. Rich shot me a look. I'm like, huh? Well, that's awesome. I hope you get all your hopes and dreams. You work so hard. You're so articulate. You're so assertive. I'm just so impressed with you. And thank you so much for pushing so hard. Thank your president for pushing so hard and running the gauntlet and making this happen. She did an awesome job as well. And I wish your club the very best of luck. And thank you so much for inviting me and Dakota. It was our pleasure. We love doing it.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
All right, Jamie Miller, thank you so much. Club America. Hey everybody, it's Michael Schwartz with Gun Owners Radio. I did something kind of cool and it led to doing something even cooler. You know, I really got into sporting clays a few years ago. It's a lot of fun. I think it's probably my favorite shooting sport. Even though I really wasn't a shotgun guy before that, I was using my dad's circa 1960s Winchester 1200 pump action. I actually really, really loved it. I've since passed that on to my nephew, but that left me one shotgun short of being able to shoot sporting clays. So I put it out there into the gun world here in San Diego that I was looking for a shotgun. And my requirements were, of course, it had to be 12 gauge. But I wanted the shotgun to be interesting. I didn't want to just go out and get, the normal shotgun that everyone else had. I've definitely noticed that people are using over-unders a lot, and I just wanted to be a little bit different. So I decided to go with a side-by-side. I wanted a double-barrel side-by-side, and I wanted it to have a little bit of history. But because I'm a little lazy, I only wanted it to have one trigger rather than two triggers, and I didn't want exposed hammers. Pretty much that was my requirement. And I wanted long barrels. I said I wanted at least a 26-inch barrel, if not longer. And I put it out there to some gun shop owners. And after, about a year, SoCal Gun Brokers up in Ramona answered the call. And they said, hey, man, I think we have the exact perfect shotgun for you. So I went up there, checked it out. And sure enough, I think they nailed it. This is a J.C. Higgins 100. It is a 12-gauge double barrel side-by-side shotgun, as you can see. It only has the one trigger, and it doesn't have exposed hammers. I think they absolutely nailed it. Now, the reason I like the fact that it's a J.C. Higgins is that J.C. Higgins, this is probably circa 1950s, maybe 1960s. J.C. Higgins used to be the in-house brand for Sears. And J.C. Higgins actually, eventually they started doing these Ted Williams, the baseball player, they started doing these signature series for their firearms, which I thought was really, really cool. But obviously Sears wasn't manufacturing firearms. So this shotgun was actually manufactured by AYA. AYA is a Spanish company, and they've been around for a long time, and they're well respected for being kind of a working man's shotgun. In other words, it's not a fancy, competition type shotgun. It's the kind of shotgun that somebody that needs to go out and get dinner would take and be able to rely on as being a shotgun that's going to work, that's high enough quality that they're going to be able to hit their target, but it doesn't break the bank. And I kind of liked that. I thought the history was very, very cool. It has a 28-inch barrel or two 28-inch barrels, and then it's got a walnut stock. And so far, I've been extremely thrilled with it. But that created a new problem. Now I have this shotgun, and I needed a case for the shotgun. Now, the shotgun's kind of big, kind of long. Typically, of course, long guns are, in fact, long. It's in the name. So I wanted to get something that was as compact as possible. And I was noticing that the shotgun cases I was looking for even though it's a breakdown shotgun, they were particularly long. They were big. They were a little too big for me, and I wanted to maximize space. So I went to one of our sponsors, Cargo in El Cajon, and I said, hey, the longest piece on this thing is this 28-inch barrel. You know, the double barrels are 28 inches. So I think that's probably the minimum I can get away with. And he pointed out, well, no, not really. We can actually go shorter if we just put it in diagonal. So I worked with Mike at Cargo, and he helped me put together this case. So what I'm going to do is break this down, put it in the case, and then we're going to talk about the case. So here's the case and how it fits together after it's broken down. As you can see, he went diagonal with the barrel, so that's 28 inches, meaning that the actual length and width of this is smaller than 28 inches, which is something I was looking for. But above and beyond that, because we were sitting there actually drawing it together, we were looking at the case and then laying it out on butcher paper and then drawing it, taking pictures of it and putting it into his computer and, deciding what was the most efficient way to fit all the pieces in. I ended up with even more room than I anticipated. So this is my double barrel right here. This, of course, is the rest of the gun in the foregrip. It breaks down. I told him, I said, I usually do 50 rounds of when I go do sporting clays. So I want to be able to put 2 boxes in. Sure enough, here you go. We fit 2 boxes in exactly. And then there was enough storage area for eyes and ears. So I have eyes and ears, 2 boxes, and then he included a desiccant. And what this does, of course, is keeps the rust off, all the moisture out. But I thought this was a really great solution. I was able to pick the foam. This foam was less porous than the other foam he had, which makes it, less susceptible to oils and any kind of liquid getting in there. And just the fact that it fits the shotgun perfectly, I'm really, really stoked about. The other part of this is if I decide to get rid of this shotgun, I still have a case. All I have to do is slip this foam out of there, go back to him or do it myself and, create a new foam insert and boom, there you go. And on top of that, he actually branded it for me. He put up San Diego County Gun Owners logo right here. And of course the Gun Owners radio in the center and then his logo, Cargo Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters. So now I have a nice compact case that was custom made, not just for me, but for my actual gun. We made the most for as far as size goes, and then added some extra areas for gear. So there you go. I wanted to show you the shotgun that I purchased that fits my needs perfectly, and then how Cargo took care of me and got a case for the shotgun. I'm looking forward to trying it out and reporting back. Thank you, Cargo in El Cajon. Check them out. You have a right to defend yourself. A 7-Eleven clerk was fired after shooting an attacker. This happened in Oklahoma City. A clerk at 7-Eleven named Stephanie Dilliard, she's now a former 7-Eleven clerk, faced a terrifying ordeal when a man attempted to strangle her after she refused to accept a counterfeit $100 bill for purchases. And I want to show the video. I think she makes a very compelling case for herself. So let's watch the video on this.
Tonight, we are hearing from a 7-Eleven clerk who shot a suspect in the stomach after police say he attacked her over a counterfeit bill. Fox 25's Rob Hagan joins us live tonight. Rob, I hear she just got some news from 7-Eleven.
That's right, Wendy. Good evening. Now, Stephanie Dilliard says 7-Eleven corporate called her today and fired her for using her own gun in self-defense. They say it's against company policy. She says she's lucky to be alive. 25-year-old Stephanie Dilliard was a 7-Eleven clerk who faced terror after she says a man tried to strangle her after she refused a counterfeit $100 bill for burritos, beef sticks, and ice cream. It happened Thursday, just before midnight.
He threatened me, said that he was going to slice my head off, and then that's when I tried to call the police. Realized he started throwing things at me. Came behind the counter. I tried to run off, but he grabbed his hands around my neck and pushed me out of the counter space. That's when I pulled out my gun and and I shot him.
Police say the suspect, 59-year-old Kenneth Thompson, ran to MacArthur Boulevard and Northwest 34th Street and called 911. Police say Dilliard is protected under Oklahoma's self-defense law, but she says 7-Eleven Human Resources fired her Monday morning for using her own gun.
Said that they were going to separate from employment because of a violation of policy.
Dilliard says she was working by herself from 11 p.m. to...
So, first off, congratulations to you and good job, Stephanie Dilliard, on deciding to take your safety in your own hands. Had you not, then clearly this guy could have killed you and stated he was going to. Again, he threatened me and said he was going to slice my head off. And actually, he grabbed her, this guy buying ice cream, beef sticks, and burritos, grabbed her by the neck and tried to kill her. And that's when she was able to defend herself. And I know a lot of people might say, hey, be aware of what your company's, policies are when it comes to carrying a firearm. Yeah, be aware, but I'm glad she broke those policies. I'm glad that she is still here and safe to talk about, violating her company's policies. Shame on 7-Eleven for firing her. Clearly what she did was legal. She was defending herself. And oh, by the way, 7-Eleven, I mean, what exactly did they do in order to help keep her safe? In fact, it went on in the video to say that what she should have done, according to 7-Eleven, was use inventory in the store to defend herself. So they wanted, for her to, grab a pack of gum or some Twinkies and throw it at this guy that was trying to slice her head off and choke her. So I don't know. Good for her. I'm glad she did it. Shame on 7-Eleven. The guy was arrested at the hospital. He was charged with assault and battery, threatening acts of violence, attempting to pass a fake bill, and a felony warrant for violating parole. So this guy was already on parole. I don't think they said what he was on parole for. But it's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
I'll tell you. Okay, if you look across businesses across the United States, mm-hmm. a majority of businesses will have a policy against firearms, and the reasoning generally is, I will tell you, generally speaking, sometimes it's a condition of an insurance company for their businesses to be insured. Yeah. It may be that they truly don't feel that way, but what it is if they have a policy, it can sometimes protect them from liability. Should something occur in a civil suit. So I don't have a problem with them having a policy because I get it. Yeah. I'm pissed off that they enforced it.
That they enforced it.
That's,
I know,
that's
right?
my issue. See, I get the policy because that's kind of a standard, kind of like a wink, wink. Okay, you got a policy. Yeah. Okay, but the fact that they enforced it and fired her, that's where I have the issue.
Well, she went on to say, if I've known that there's a potential that somebody is for real on taking my life away, that I will do whatever it takes, and I hope that women see that, and they'll mm-hmm. do the same thing. Absolutely. You have a right to defend yourself, she said. This Stephanie Dilliard said this. And by the way, I just want to point out again, this wasn't in some crazy, anti-gun state like California mm-hmm. or Massachusetts or New Jersey. This was Oklahoma. This is Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. But I agree. All right, have your policy so you can get cheaper rates on insurance or right. whatever. But then enforcing it, for shame. That's absolutely for shame.
You know what? What's going to come out of this? My hope is that she will get an amazing job offer somewhere, or maybe she goes the route of Raul Mendez. Maybe she takes this spurs her. Maybe she's going to become an advocate, a firearms instructor. She seems pretty assured of herself, right? Maybe she's going to take this and do something amazing with it.
Well, one of the things you can do to help her while she's figuring out her next move is right. we're going to put up a link for a GoFundMe. Somebody actually put up a GoFundMe for her that's already raised almost $12,000. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome, and I'm seeing some healthy.
That'll pay a lot of ammo.
Donations here. Yeah. Somebody donated $2,000. Somebody donated $200. A couple of 50s. So help her out. Go to that link. Help her out. Give a couple of bucks just for just for good karma, if nothing else, and help her. Get back on her feet because she didn't do anything wrong.
Right. She did everything right.
What do you think, Dakota? Did she do everything right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, your company does not care about your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
They might put this policy in place that tells you that you can't carry a gun at work, that you can't protect your life if you need to, but they're not going to have security there to protect your life
Mm-hmm.
for you. They're not going to care about you if you die. If this woman had been attacked and killed, that we wouldn't have even heard about this. This would not have even been a blip on the radar of the news cycle because so many people are getting attacked and killed every day in this country. So 7-Eleven doesn't care. Your company doesn't care. I always talk about, kind of personal decision making when it comes to carrying a gun, because I know people who have been fired from their jobs for carrying a gun and not needing to use it in self-defense, but having that discovered by a coworker or by a boss or something like that. And so whenever I talk about carrying at work, I always, kind of caveat it with, you want to make sure that the risk is worth the reward for you and for your particular situation. If I'm working in a building that has armed security, like, I probably feel a little bit more comfortable making sure that I get to keep my job and that I'm not violating that policy. But everybody's got to make their own decisions based on their own financial situation. This woman, she's got kids. She was like, this was a no-brainer to me. I can get another, job that's equivalent to 7-Eleven. Of course, I'm going to go home to my kids and raise them and be there for my family. So everyone's calculus on this is going to be a little bit different, but your company does not care about your life. They do not care about protecting you. They had this woman working 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. by herself, a single shift, the overnight shift at the 7-Eleven in Oklahoma City. They don't care. They literally
with no security,
with no security, encouraging her to use packs of gum to defend herself. Like, they do not care. None of these companies care about you. You have to be the one who cares about your own life. And even if police had gotten called during the attack, like, they may not have been there in time. And that's the thing, is that we see so often people calling 911 thinking that that's going to be the solution for them in their moment of need, when they need self-defense, when they need somebody to protect them, and the police are just too far away in that moment to actually get there in time to save the person's life.
Okay, let's say you're in a 7-Eleven and you get attacked and you don't have your gun on you for whatever reason. Okay, here's the question. What inventory are you most likely? What is the preferred 7-Eleven product that you're going to grab to defend yourself?
Glass bottle.
Glass bottle?
Glass bottle of wine. Yeah, wine.
Yeah.
I was going to go with wine.
Yeah.
Wine?
Wine.
Glass bottle, probably into the ground first to break it,
Nice.
make it sharp.
Like an
and
old
then it's a
80s action movie. Like, bring it. I got to tell you, I was going to say
hot dog.
I was going to say a spicy
Choke
40
'em?
pounder. No, I was going to say I feel kind of lame. My first thought was to grab. They have laundry soap, and I thought a bottle of laundry soap would probably go. But you're right.
Wait, so they slip and slide on the floor? Is that...
No, I was going to hit them with like a gallon of Tide.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was like, is this Home Alone? Are we booby trapping the
Exactly.
7-Eleven?
Well, although that's an added benefit, right? You hit the guy and then drop the soap, and like run. And they start running after, come here, and they slide. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But a bottle of wine and breaking it to make it sharp, that's I feel a little embarrassed.
Do you guys remember that movie, or the clip from a gas station where some dude grabbed a twisted tea, a can of twisted tea, and he just clocked the heck out of some guy. Yeah, that's it. That's a close second to the glass bottle.
Anything with liquid in it, I guess.
Yeah, nice and heavy.
You get complicated. If you're standing close to the battery section, they usually have like beanies and stuff, and you could fill the beanie up with batteries and then beat them with that.
Like a modified homie sock.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, when seconds count, you can't be loading a beanie with batteries.
Well, and when 7-Eleven says you should have used inventory to protect yourself, like, let's think about what's actually behind the cash register.
Right.
Cigarettes, gum, candy bars. Like, that's
Lottery
what she
tickets.
had in her at her disposal. Like, that is asinine.
With the hands of a man around her neck, she was supposed to grab inventory. I just had this image of somebody from HR calling her and saying, "Hey, you're fired." She's like, "Well, what was I supposed to do?" And the HR person's like, "Look, we clearly stated you're supposed to grab some lottery tickets and defend yourself with that." I mean, I don't know why that's confusing,
Yeah. Just since it's kind of on this topic, one thing I'll recommend to anybody who is listening to this segment is if you do work in a place or you have to go to places where you can't carry or you choose not to carry, get some alternative weapon training. There's a great class called Improvised Weapons that Larry St. Clair teaches that really was eye-opening. Like, he just has like a table full of random stuff, and he's like, and this is how I would kill someone with this thing, and this is how I would kill someone with that thing. And so it really just kind of opens your mind to like looking around if you're in a situation where you can't have your gun on you or you don't have pepper spray or whatever. There are tools available at our disposal all the time that could do significant damage to somebody, but you have to think ahead so that you can actually make the best choice in the moment. Because, you know, in arm's reach of me right now, I've got like a napkin, a piece of paper, a phone, and a coffee cup, right? So like,
yeah, but it's a gun owner's radio coffee cup. I gotta tell you,
in the moment, if I had never thought about this, I maybe would just grab the phone, right? But like, if I had done some pre-thinking, I'm going to be like, oh, it's worth the extra reach for the coffee cup.
So ridiculous, the kabuki theater that we have to put up with. But anyway, I got to tell you, I just want to end on her quote. I really, really liked it. You referenced it, but I want people to hear what she had to say. This was a situation where I felt like I was put into a corner between choosing between my job and my life. She wouldn't just feel that way. That's exactly what happened. And I'm always going to choose my life because there's people that depend on me. I'm going home. You know, I need to be here for my kids. Good for you. Congratulations. I'm so sorry that this happened to you, though, Stephanie. And hopefully our listeners will throw in a couple of bucks at the GoFundMe. We're going to put that link in the description or in the comments or somewhere. You'll be able to see that. And $10, $50, whatever you can do, just, you know, help her out because she didn't deserve this and it's not fair. And shame on you, 7-Eleven, for the part you played here.